It is Good Friday.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, depending on where you're listening to this.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, indeed. He comes back.
Yeah.
This season, Easter is particularly special for Christians, and we are both Christians. We both love Jesus. And so we wanted to just do a little special episode 9. It's going to be all your usual bits, but more of a focus on us and our journeys and faith and stuff like that. But what I wanted to kick off with, this week I went for a walk with Lexi and a friend of ours called Rosie. She's been shouted out on the pod before.
Yeah.
She asked me the question around gluten-free. So we were walking, and because Rosie's Australian and I'm technically born in Wales, but British, one of the things that we realised was that I call sweets sweets.
Yeah.
Americans call sweets
Candy,
correct? Yeah. Australians call sweets/candy.
Yeah.
Do you know?
No idea.
Hazard a guess.
Sugar.
No, but close.
Oh.
They call them lollies.
What?
Yeah. So we were on this walk, and my exact reaction.
What?
They don't just call lollipops
Lollies.
We had this whole discussion, and I was walking, and I was like, "So, Rosie, let me just say something. If you said, 'Oh, do you have any lollies?' to me, I had a bag of Haribo Star Mix in my pocket, which I often do, just for emergencies.
Yeah, obviously.
And I said, no, I don't have any lollies. Sorry. Rosie would be absolutely offended that I'd said no to her because actually what I did have in my pocket was lollies, according to Australians.
Australians? You're wrong.
Yeah, basically. I mean,
how do they then determine a lolly from a sweet?
It's a great question.
Oh yeah, I have a lolly with a stick, please.
Maybe the pop. Maybe it is to do with the pop.
What do you mean the pop?
As in the lolly pop. Like, is it maybe that's...
I was like, what sweets pop in your... Like, popping candy? Like
Popping
what?
candy, yeah. Lolly popping candy.
Lollipop popping.
Amazingly, chocolate is chocky to Australians.
Yeah.
Candy is chocolate to Americans across the board.
Yeah.
I said to Rosie, if she was having an M&M, because obviously they've got a hard shell, they would potentially be lollies.
Really?
Mate, you can see
That's
how...
bewildering.
Thank you. That's the only word that sums it up. Roro, we love you, and you're a great asset to this podcast, but that blew my mind to the point where it became my... We were having a discussion the other day, like, what's your Roman Empire?
Oh,
That became my Roman Empire. Like,
wow.
I couldn't let it go.
Blimey.
Yeah.
This is wrong.
You're so disappointed.
Genuinely, because I'm more concerned. Rosie, how do you determine a lollipop from a sweet? Like, you know what they mean because you live in England. But like, how do you determine what a sweet is and what a lollipop is?
It's such a good question.
Like, do you say, "Oh yeah, I'll have a lolly, please," and then you're just all completely psychic, and the other person just knows that you're asking for one with a stick?
Mate, that's such a good question. The first thing I'm going to do after recording is get on the phone and
Would they say Mackies or Maccas?
She'd say, let me just get into her accent. Hi Ben, it's Roro, your best friend from Australia. Should we meet at Macca's? Macca's. That helped. That helped so much. That was the most ridiculous thing.
You weren't even thinking about it, were you?
No.
That was the realization of like, I've just achieved what I was trying to achieve. That's fantastic.
That blew my mind. I can't believe that worked.
Yeah, I'm
That's
really
like my subconscious jumped to life in that moment.
That's
We both.
That's fantastic.
That is insane.
Bewildered.
So we're gonna do high lows.
Yeah.
But we're gonna not do high lows of the week. We're gonna do high lows of our Christian walks.
High lows of life.
High lows of life, and where we've seen, hey, this has been a really good moment in our Christian life, but also a real low and tough time.
Yep.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
What would you want me to start with, a low or a high? In fact, let's both start with lows.
Yeah.
Because like today is a hard day, but Sunday is coming.
Yeah.
And our highs are coming.
I love that. Yeah.
So my low, whilst I love podcasts and whilst I love getting to talk to you, there are certain things that don't need to be shared on a podcast. And there are certain things that, like details that we don't have to go into.
Yeah.
I had the most phenomenal upbringing, and I'm so grateful for that. There were experiences that I had during upbringing, nothing to do with my family, that caused a lot of pain and a lot of shame throughout my later life. And for many years, I suppressed those and hid them through embarrassment and shame, and I didn't want anyone to know about them. And then for the last, honestly, 4 years, I've been working through that. It has meant at times that that without going into detail, life has been incredibly tricky and really, really hard. And I think if I not had suppressed it, and again, I don't look back and blame myself at all, but I think there are always times where I look back and think, if I had the maturity or the wisdom that I know now, I probably would have handled it differently, but I didn't because I was younger, and so I handled it how I handled it. And I think there has been times where that has made other complications, particular romantic relationships, particular intimacy of the heart and letting people in behind the walls of life. That's made those times quite difficult. And I think that's caused years in some ways of lows, and I think God has been good even in the midst of those situations, even though they've been lows and even though they've been so tricky and so difficult. Like, God has been really faithful through it all. And continuing to, I wouldn't say that healing has happened or I am healed, but I think healing is a continual process. Yeah. And so whilst healing is taking place at the moment, I can have said that for the last 4 years, and I will have said that, I think, for the next few years, maybe the rest of my life, because healing is happening. But real low, but also even through it, in the midst of it, Jesus has been faithful.
That's good. That's great.
What about you?
Again, similarly, of like not wanting to go into like crazy amounts of detail and stuff like that. When I just finished Nexus, I just finished my degree and then went into the world of work. I really struggled with that transition. I kind of basically mourned the loss of loads of close friends who had then moved on, moved away from Coventry. I had really good housemates, but I lived in a house that was just dingy and dark. Wasn't very nice. And I just remember feeling really low physically, which then led to me being really low spiritually. So this would have been sort of September 22 into the start of 2023. I really struggled. There are, again, other things that I won't go into details on, but there are other things that just made this kind of culmination of me basically coming to this point, kind of hitting a breaking point with kind of a few different things that then just I kind of had this realization. It's like, oh wow, I am really distant from God. I'm really kind of distant from feeling any sort of worth in who I was, kind of what I was doing with my life. And that sounds quite dramatic, but I didn't necessarily have a huge plan at that point. I didn't feel like I had a lot of friends. I felt very lonely. That was quite a low. I look back on that period as a real low for me, and kind of try to then almost set that as a benchmark, if that makes sense, to be like, all right, what can I put in place that means I'm not going to end up feeling like that again? Does that kind of answer the low question?
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Kind of was then going into a time of counselling then as well. Yeah, just that was quite a big deal for me. Talking to someone, really quite a big deal for me, and I still grapple with that a bit. But I've then seen kind of God's faithfulness, pursued that faithfulness through that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go for some highs.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've said this a couple of times on the podcast, the realization and the true realization, which is still being worked out, that only Christ satisfies. And like that is I've got one tattoo, which is of a cross. Obviously, it's a full sleeve. It's like, for those listening on the pod, it's the tiniest little cross ever.
Yeah, it's a
and
fingernail.
when they drew it on with a biro, I was like, ow, this really hurts. And I thought that I wasn't looking, and I thought that was it. And then he was like, no, I've just done the biro. And I was like, oh, great, I'm dreading this. But I got this when I was 30 to remind myself of God's goodness in my life and what the cross means. And I know what the cross means. But when I arrived at 30, like I said, there was a lot of low moments. And that's when the rubber hit the road, if you like. And I think it became this realization of, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean to you? And I've had a few of those moments in my life. And I think at every moment where I felt like I've let go, God has gripped hold of me, which I'm unbelievably grateful for. Yeah. But I think, there's just been the highs for me are the realization of continual realization. And even though in those moments where I don't look to Christ to satisfy, he still is the only one that satisfies.
Yeah.
And I think for many years, it was in the midst of sin and in the midst of my brokenness that I realized that only Christ satisfies. And I think for the first time in my life, I'm realizing before sinning and before the other stuff and before falling down patterns of behavior or being lured into my, mental health struggles, like realizing in all of these things only Christ satisfies.
Yeah.
And I think there's a great blessing in realizing that before the mistakes happen. And so there's just been a real shift in my heart over the last few years. My high of my life in that regard is to realize that only Christ satisfies.
It's good. I think for me, kind of similar actually. I think I mentioned this last week of just the realization, or the kind of the real grasping hold of faith not works. I have always struggled with feeling like a sinner. I've always struggled to feel kind of loved by God, loved for who I am, which in turn has then had effects on my relationships with some people, because I'm kind of thinking, oh, do they actually, what do people think of me? Do they actually like me? And just had a real revelation again, really, of just, I just got up of Ephesians 2:8. For it is by grace you've been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. And just that thing of, my salvation is completely outside of myself. Like, there's nothing else that I can do. And sometimes we would hear the kind of phrase that there's nothing else you can do. It's quite a negative thing. It's like, there's nothing else I can do. There's nothing else I need to do.
Yeah.
Like, I am just completely made alive and made free by Christ. It says not by work, so that no one can boast. It's not so that I then go and start showing off because I'm covered because of what I've done. It's like it completely takes the kind of glory off of you and completely shifts it onto Jesus.
Yeah, that's class. I love that.
That's my high.
Yes.
Saved through faith.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We're going to head over to a special question. We haven't got a question by our family this week, but we do have a question by our friend, which I've obviously got a jingle for because it changes it up. So
yeah, you do.
And da 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 friendship. Da 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 da. Join in. Da 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 friendship. 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 Like, that is literally the greatest jingle we've ever done. Oh my goodness. This is questioned by our friends.
Wow.
Da 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 friendship.
Oh, I was waiting to go again.
I just
Who have we got?
We've got my friend Dan Atkins. So last week I mentioned about the football team. Dan is one of the football boys, and he is a great friend of mine, a great encouragement. After the first series, I wrote to some friends and said, hey, it would be great if you could share some feedback. Let us know what you like about it. Let us know what you don't like about it. And Dan wrote back with this. And I just thought, this is so spectacular that we'll use this for the Easter special.
Just an aside, he also loves voice note. Are we listening to it on 1.5, 2?
Listen to it on 1 for the sake of the listeners.
Hello, mate. Hope you're doing okay. Just in terms of comments, mate, I've been absolutely loving it. You guys have got such a good chemistry together, and loving everything you talk about, the nonsense and the more serious stuff as well. I had an interesting question for you to consider, and whether or not you want to use it or not, I guess is up to you. If you had 30 seconds to convince someone who was skeptical about Christianity, about why it is that you believe it's true, how would you use that 30 seconds? What would you do? How would you show them? And look, mate, keep up the good work. It's great. I'm loving listening to it when I'm driving, running, and when I'm baking or bathing. Any one of them, actually. So yeah, mate, love it, and hopefully we'll catch up very soon, mate. Looking forward to hearing from you. Big love.
There's one comment I need to make.
Yeah.
He's obviously said when he's running, when he's driving, when he's baking.
Or bathing.
Bathing. I'm not sure he ever mentioned. I'm not sure he ever once said, guys, anyone listening to this while bathing.
Do you know what? I just let it slide because it sounds like the sort of thing we would say. Yeah. But now that you say it, I don't actually think we have. No. Oh, Dan. Oh, no.
So, no. Let's move on.
Happy bathing. Oh, yeah. Okay. So 30 seconds to kind of essentially pitch Christianity to someone.
It's a hard.
Crikey.
It's a hard question, and also I could have given you a bigger heads up than now. Like anything, I would simply not like starting a clock and stopping a clock at 30 seconds. I would simply say, like, it has totally and utterly transformed my life, and at every moment along the way, it's been utterly worth it.
Yeah.
And I think even as we've already said, our lows and our highs, the truth be told, I wouldn't wish the lows on anybody, even my enemies that I've been through, but I would go through those again to experience what I know now.
Good.
And to experience the love and the kindness and the sheer joy in knowing, as you've said, that like it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what's done to us. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what the world outside of us says about us. The truth is that Jesus loves us.
Yeah.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only son.
Yeah.
The love comes first.
Yeah.
Hebrews 12, I think it is. Hebrews 12, verse 2. For the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame. He sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Like, for the joy set before him endured the cross. Like that joy is us. That joy is you, Archie Rowell. That joy is Dan Atkins. That joy is Karen. Like whoever's listening to this right now, like the joy that's set before him was you. Yeah. That was his joy.
That's
and so he endured the cross for us.
So good.
And I need to remind myself of that so much. But that for that to know that he endured that for us so that we could be restored back to him, like is enough for me to say to anyone, like, give this a go. Yeah. It's totally and utterly worth it. Yeah. And that was 29.3 seconds. So good luck, bro. No. Yeah. I mean, what would you say?
I mean, I would definitely go along similar lines. It'll change your life. Nothing else will as much as Christ can and will. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what you carry now. We don't come to Jesus once we've got everything figured out. We go to him to get everything figured out. You know, and so actually, it doesn't matter what you're carrying or what you've been through. It doesn't matter what you will continue to carry or what you then continue to go through. He loves you no matter what. No one and nothing else on this planet can show you that same love or emulate that same love. Only Christ can. It is only Christ satisfies. Just sums everything up. It's genuinely, decent. Like you, it will change your life. Yeah. There's nothing else that needs to be said. It will change your life. Even now I notice the difference between times where I am not quite stuck into my quiet times and times where I am, and how when I'm really intentional with pursuing Jesus and when I'm really intentional in my active, visible relationship with him, how much better I feel, how much more joy I see in life. It'll change your life.
28.4 seconds.
Oh, world record.
You smashed it. Tim Chester in his book, Enjoying God, it's a phenomenal book, talks about there is nothing that you can do to affect your union with God, but you can affect your communion with God. And so our responsibility is communion with God. And so that is the pursuit of faithfulness. It's getting up daily. It's giving the days back to him. It's acknowledging, praying through prayer, worship, church, all of those good stuff. That's why those things are really important, because they do affect our communion with God. But our union is all done by what Christ did on the cross. And so it's already been taken care of.
To be honest, I've got this note on my phone where I hear these kind of absolute nuggets of wisdom, like one-liners in preachers.
It must be full of what I've said.
Oh yeah. But there's some that are like bold, which I've kind of been like, that is fantastic.
Come on.
And I could read all of them. When I look at myself, I think I can't be saved. When I look to Christ, I know I can't be lost.
Oh,
like there's nothing else I need to do. Yeah, right.
Straight fire.
I also need to say a couple more of these.
Okay, go on.
It should wildly petrify you if you feel as though you're nailing being a Christian. It should wildly encourage you if you feel as though you're not nailing being a Christian.
Right, like it. I've got also a note like that.
Yeah. And
mine says, of all the unimportant things in life, football is the most important. Maybe not as inspiring.
Oh, no.
But it's got other things on there as well. If you are not praying, then you are quietly confident that time, money, and talent are all you need in your life. Ooh.
That's hard hitting, that.
Go on, hit us with one more.
Ooh. God's will won't take you anywhere. God's grace can't keep you.
Ooh. Fire. That's like, ooh, denim. I don't know if we can actually technically say that, but ooh, fire. If denim want to sponsor. Yeah. Oh, mate. That's epic.
There you go.
There's some great ones in there. Last thing I want to ask. Favourite Easter egg? Scrambled. No, I'm not talking about chocolate. I'm talking about how do you like your eggs on Easter morning? Scrambled, obviously. Fried? Poached. You're a poached boy, aren't you?
Fried.
You're a poached boy, really.
Double fried.
Double
As in flipped,
flipped.
sorry.
100. Do you pop the yolk?
No.
No, what? Seriously, though, what's your favourite chocolate egg?
Oh, yeah. Can't beat a good mini egg.
Mate.
Like,
Bruh.
I just love mini eggs.
For those listening, we've just fist pumped and agreed.
Cadbury's, question, if you're listening. Have
Mm.
you changed the recipe of mini eggs? Because Karen thinks that they've changed the recipe and she doesn't quite like them as much.
I think there's been a slight difference this year.
Do you think? Mini eggs. Love
So
'em.
good.
Mini eggs over cream eggs for me.
Ooh.
Yep,
I
sticking
tend
with
to just do both. All the eggs.
Hit me with an inspirational one-liner quote to finish.
Can I sing it?
Of course you can sing it.
I know I'm safest when I'm in your will and trust your word. I know I'm dangerous when I trust myself, my vision's blurred. And I ain't got no time to play life's foolish games. I've got plenty aims, but do they really glorify your name?
Don't tell me you just made that up on the
No,
spot.
of course I didn't. That's a Lecrae rap.
Oh, okay. That was fantastic.
Thanks, mate.
What a way to end. Our Good Friday special.
Good Friday. Thanks for joining us for our Easter special.
Yeah.
Happy bank holidays.
Yeah.
If that's the only thing that you like about Easter is the bank holidays,
Yeah.
and you've listened to this episode, we're very, very thankful and
That is,
grateful.
yeah, that's so true.
There's only one way to end.
Happy
Happy
chatting.
bathing.
Oh, no.
Happy Easter, guys. We'll see you very, very
Sunday's
soon.
coming.
Hi, Ben and Archie. I'm here to answer all of your Australian questions. If we go to the shop, we'd say, can I get a lolly? And that would just mean like a sweet. But if we wanted a lollipop, then we'd say, can I get a lollipop? It's that simple. We're simple humans. That's all I can say. Anyway, happy chatting.